This is one of the oldest transactions in human history, an exchange between the earthly and the divine, a gesture of faith, of gratitude, of hope for a better tomorrow. But what happens when that sacred transaction gets hijacked? When the language of faith is co-opted by the mechanics of a sophisticated, emotional, and perfectly legal heist? This isn't about faith. This is a story about a system. A system where billions of dollars flow, largely untaxed and unregulated, from the pockets of the hopeful into the hands of the few. This is the story of how, under the right circumstances, a church can function as the most effective everyday bank heist in the modern world. To understand the heist, you have to understand why people give so willingly. It's not because they're foolish. It's because they are being appealed to on a level that bypasses logic and goes straight to the core of human emotion. The first tool is the language of investment, not donation. You're not just giving money. You're sowing a seed. This is a psychological masterstroke. A donation is a cost. A seed is an investment with a promised return. The pastor, acting as God's intermediary, promises a harvest. Give $100 today, and God will return it to you tenfold. It's a celestial stock tip. This taps directly into two things: hope for a better financial future, and the powerful cognitive bias of confirmation bias. If someone's car happens to break down the next week, it's a test from God. If they get a small bonus, it's the first fruits of their harvest. They connect the gift to any positive outcome, reinforcing the belief. The second tool is exploiting crisis and gratitude. The message is often tailored to your emotional state. Are you in a financial crisis? Your breakthrough is on the other side of a sacrificial offering. Are you grateful for a blessing you received? Then you must give a thanksgiving offering to show your gratitude, or you risk losing the blessing. This creates a constant cycle. Fear drives giving, a positive event happens, gratitude drives more giving. It's a self-perpetuating emotional engine. The third and most powerful tool is spiritualizing materialism, the prosperity gospel. This is the theological framework that makes the heist possible. In its simplest form, it teaches that financial blessing and physical well-being are always the will of God, and that faith, positive speech, and donations will increase your material wealth. This doctrine brilliantly reframes the pastor's own wealth, not as greed, but as a testimony. His private jet is proof that God blesses his followers. His Rolex is a symbol of God's favor. So the more lavish his lifestyle, the more anointed he must be, and the more you should give to get your own slice of that divine favor. It's a feedback loop of showmanship that validates itself. So the motivation is in place. The money is flowing. Now, how is the system structured to allow this wealth to be extracted, often with little oversight or accountability? The first and most important layer is the legal shield, the 501. In the United States and similar structures elsewhere, churches are registered as non-profit religious organizations. This grants them immense financial advantages. They are exempt from federal income tax, and most importantly, they are not required to make their finances public. A secular non-profit has to file a Form 990, detailing executive compensation and revenue. A church does not. This creates a black box. Money goes in, but where it goes is often a mystery to the very congregation giving it. The second layer is the corporate structure. Modern megachurches aren't just churches. They are sprawling corporate empires. The church itself might be the nonprofit hub, but it often owns or controls a web of for-profit LLCs. A real estate holding company, a private jet management company, a publishing house for the pastor's books, a music label, a media network. Here's how the heist works. Donations from the congregation go into the nonprofit church. The church then pays its senior pastor a salary, which might be substantial, but is just the beginning. The church then pays rent to its own for-profit real estate company, owned by the pastor. It pays fees to the jet management company owned by the pastor. It buys millions of copies of the pastor's book from his own publishing company. The money is simply being moved from one pocket to another, but it's laundered through a series of legal transactions that make it nearly impossible to track. The non-profit church itself might even show a modest budget, while the wealth is accumulating in the pastor's private, for-profit entities. The third layer is the lack of oversight. In a healthy organization, a board of directors provides financial oversight. In many of these structures, the board is made up of the pastor's wife, his childhood friend, and his business manager, people who have no intention of questioning his spending. There is no check on his power. The congregation, told to not touch God's anointed and to avoid a spirit of judgment, is discouraged from asking questions. To demand financial transparency is framed as a lack of faith. The result of this isn't just a wealthy pastor. It's a systemic human cost that is often hidden behind the glittering facade. The most direct cost is exploited hope. The people most vulnerable to the seed faith message are often those who can least afford it. The single mother living paycheck to paycheck is told her financial salvation lies in giving her last $100. The elderly couple on a fixed income is convinced to drain their savings as a sacrifice for their legacy. When the promised harvest doesn't come, they don't blame the preacher. They blame themselves for not having enough faith. The psychological damage is profound. Furthermore, this model distorts the core mission of charity. Vast sums of money that were given, in spirit, to help the poor and spread the gospel, are instead funneled into multi-million-dollar campuses with laser light shows and jumbotrons, and into the personal luxuries of the leader. The mission subtly shifts from serving the community to serving the brand and enriching the leader. So why does it keep happening? Why don't people just leave? This is where the final, cruelest psychological lock comes into play: spiritual gaslighting. If you voice concern, you are told you're being used by the devil to attack the church. You have a religious spirit focused on man, not God. God will provide for the pastor. It's not your place to question. Leaving isn't just leaving a church. It's risking your entire social structure, your community, and in your mind, potentially your standing with God. The fear of that is more powerful than the frustration over the money. Let's be perfectly clear. This is not an indictment of faith. It is not a critique of all churches. Countless churches operate with radical integrity, transparency, and genuine charity, using their resources to feed the hungry, house the homeless, and provide real community. This is an indictment of a specific systemic corruption that uses faith as its camouflage. It's a blueprint that exploits the best of human nature, our hope, our generosity, our desire for a higher purpose, and weaponizes it for financial gain. The religious bank heist doesn't require a mask or a gun. It requires a pulpit, a Bible verse taken out of context, and a willingness to look a desperate person in the eye and sell them a version of God that looks an awful lot like you. It's a heist that happens every single Sunday in plain sight. And the only thing required for it to continue is for good people to believe it's too sacred to question.